Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out. This is episode 412. Hope you're all doing great today, and thank you for making Tech It Out a small part of your day. Thrilled to have you along, whether you tune in on your favorite local talk radio station, or perhaps you subscribe to Tech It Out in podcast form. Either way, thanks for your support. We have a great show planned for you this hour with 3 different guests and topics. We're going to kick things off in a moment with Carley Knobloch. She's a tech lifestyle expert who no doubt you've seen on TV several times over the years and really knows her stuff. And much like what I try to do on this program, she's really good at breaking down geek speak into street speak. So we're going to talk about getting back to school, getting back to work. It is September, so there are some changes in the home. Things can get a little hairy. And so she's going to share some recommended gadgets, everything from new routers to keep everyone connected at high speeds to the latest in e-readers and digital notepads that let students or moms and dads take notes on something that looks like a regular tablet, but it will transcribe your handwriting into text with weeks, not hours, of battery life. I think she's also going to talk about an affordable video doorbell, as we are spending less time at home this month compared to the summer. So if you shop online, whether it's packages or food delivery services and all that, and you want to know when it's at your front door, even if you're not at home, we'll talk about a very affordable video doorbell. Then after that, not a day goes by that we don't hear about AI, right? AI this, AI that. It really is changing the game for virtually everyone that has ever used it. It's pretty wild, as you likely know. And so we're going to have Tony Anscombe on the show. He usually joins us from a cybersecurity company called ESET to talk about protecting your devices and all that, and password management and how to avoid getting scammed. But today we're going to talk more about AI and students. Are they using or abusing AI? Are they using it as a tool to help them write essays and book reports and all that? Or are they having AI like ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Copilot do all the work for them? It's a fine line, right? Well, Tony is going to argue that schools, be it high school or college, university, that they shouldn't be banning AI, but rather perhaps should be encouraging students to use AI. And he'll explain why. Possibly a controversial take on it, since students, like many of us, will no doubt just rather have the work done for them, right? We're going to get to that with Tony Anscombe from ESET in about 12 minutes from now. And then also on this show, Verizon Frontline will join us. Not someone who's going to talk to us about why you should use Verizon if you're looking to change mobile carriers and all that. This is all about Frontline, which is technology for public safety. So for first responders and the like during natural disasters, how to keep them connected so they can help us in the event of an emergency. Again, whether it's a natural one like hurricanes and floods and forest fires or earthquakes, but also man-made catastrophes, things like train derailment and chemical spills and mass shootings. What can they do in the event that they need people on the ground to efficiently coordinate with one another and communicate? We're going to learn all about technology, these special trucks and flying drones and robotic dogs that can access areas that are safer than humans doing it. And it's not just tied to Verizon customers, by the way. So that's called Verizon Frontline. So a very diverse Tech It Out for you this hour. And if we have time, and I think we will, maybe after the interview with Carley Knobloch, which we're going to kick off with now, I'm also going to share some thoughts on the AirPods Pro 3. I've been having a lot of fun reviewing this product, among others, from Apple. Very fortunate to come home to all the devices that I got a chance to play around with at Apple Park in Cupertino, California, Apple's headquarters. As you likely heard from last week's show, waiting for me when I got home were the new iPhone 17 family of devices, the super thin iPhone Air, Apple AirPods 3, and then a couple days later, I got the Apple Watch family of products. So lots to talk about over the next couple of weeks as you may be considering an upgrade. I'll share my very positive experience working with Apple AirPods Pro 3 probably in the first half of this show. So without further ado, you are listening to Tech It Out, powered by Visa, safeguarding your payments, whether it's online or at retail. I'll tell you more about Visa shortly, but let's officially kick off a brand new show with our first interview. Now that the kids are back in school, the chaos at home has likely begun. Am I right? Between homework, reading, and after-school activities, it can be a lot for families to juggle. Fortunately, we have tech lifestyle expert Carley Knobloch here with us to share some smart solutions to help you handle it all. Hi, Carley. So great to chat with you again.
It's always great to be on your show, Mark. Thanks for having me back. I partnered with a couple of great brands here that will help families stay organized and as stress-free as possible this fall.
If that is possible. Yeah.
Sure, we'll try.
And being the geek that I am a believer that tech can help play a role there. And so I'm excited to chat with you. I know you're doing a bunch of TV interviews today and showing these products on camera. For our purposes, I'll have you explain some of the highlights for us, but we'll also plug a website where our listeners can check it out, or tech it out, as I like to say, to see you demonstrate some of these in action. Yeah, let's just kick things off. So, Carley, what are some of your favorite devices this school season?
Well, I've got two devices here from Amazon, from Kindle. For the first one is really for busy parents. They're going to love this new note-taking companion that feels like writing on real paper. It's the Kindle Scribe. So imagine a Kindle, an e-ink reading device that everyone's familiar with, but now you can write on it. So it's a digital notebook that lets you take notes, create to-do lists, and plan your week all in one place. You can also convert handwritten notes to text and summarize your notes with AI. So that's pretty cool. And you can also write in the margins of books that you're reading or on documents or PDFs that you're reading. So now you can really take notes wherever inspiration strikes. And then every year, I feel like the backpacks for our kids get heavier and heavier. So these Kindle Kids devices that I have here can also help. They're a light, portable way to carry thousands of books in one. Every device comes with a subscription to Amazon Kids Plus for access to all the books that kids love, like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, or Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Plus, you get a kid-friendly case, built-in parental controls, weeks of battery life, so you don't have to always be harping on them to charge their devices. And it's got a glare-free screen that's really easy on little eyes.
Awesome. All right. So that's the larger Kindle Scribe, great for note-taking, whether it's for students or for moms or dads in the workplace. I've played around with that AI, and it's amazing when not only will it transcribe your handwriting into text, but will summarize your meeting for you, like you were saying. And then, yeah, Kindle for kids. I've been playing around with the Kindle Colorsoft for kids, so adding color into the mix on some of the models, which is really cool. You can even use your fingertip like a yellow highlighter, like we used to highlight our textbooks, but now not ruining the books. So there's a lot of applications for these devices. Love it. All right. Kicking off with Kindle. Now let's pivot and talk about families who are, again, both working and studying under the same roof. Internet speed is always a challenge. What solutions are out there to keep everyone connected?
Yeah, I mean, between the fact that many parents are working from home these days and kids are doing their homework on devices these days, so it's really critical to have a home network with the speed that everybody needs. So the Eero 7 gives you fast, reliable internet for streaming and studying and working in apartments or homes. And the Eero Pro 7 is designed for busier households or small to medium businesses that need to support basically lots of devices at once. Both of them feature true mesh technology, which allows you to eliminate all the dead spots in your home and finds you the fastest connection no matter what corner of your home that you are in.
Awesome. So Eero, of course, is EERO. Yeah, they have a family of routers and extenders and all that good stuff to keep everyone connected, even in larger homes or in older homes where you may have like concrete walls and that could impede the signal. It's not just for work, let's face it. It's also for after school fun when the kids want to game online or stream on Amazon Prime Video or Netflix or Disney or what have you. Back to school for the kids and back to work for parents. September can be a tough transition month. And so thankfully, we've got tech lifestyle expert Carley Knobloch with us. She's joining us to share some top tech ideas to help ease into the new season. Peace of mind, I would argue, is priceless. Any tech to help us with that?
Yeah, whether you're keeping an eye out for school supply deliveries or you just want to say hi to your kids when they get home from school, the Blink video doorbell really has you covered this school season. It's super easy to set up. It gives you a full view of your porch. And with two-way talk, you can chat with whoever's at the door, whether it's a delivery guy or your child who's coming home from school. For just $69.99, it also runs on battery for up to 2 years. Gives you that peace of mind, gives you eyes on your house when you maybe can't be there. That's the Blink Video Doorbell.
Yeah, I just chose that as the quote unquote best bang for your buck video doorbell for reviewed.com. I just had some hands-on time with that product, and for $69, yeah, it rivals some of the more expensive video doorbells out there, all the same features that you know and love, but in a price point that's a little easier on your wallet. So Carley, for everything we've chatted about today, where can we go for more info?
Yeah, for more information on everything I covered today, you can head over to inthenews.tv.
Again, that's inthenews.tv. You'll see Carley Knobloch with these items as well, plus links and prices and all that. All the best for the fall season. Thanks, Carley.
Thanks so much for having me, Mark.
All right, my take on AirPods Pro 3. These are the most comfortable, great sounding AirPods you've ever tried. Twice the active noise cancellation, new foam-infused silicone tips, so a more comfortable fit, and more tip sizes to choose from, now 6 of them. Longer battery life, we're talking 8 hours of active noise cancellation or up to 10 hours of transparency mode when you want to hear the outside. And live translation, which we talked about last week, where you're conversing with someone, and if they're speaking another language, you will hear English in your ears in real time. Craziness. $249 for the Apple AirPods Pro 3, or for our friends north of the border, $329 in Canada. When we return on Tech It Out, we're going to talk AI in the classroom. Does it belong there? Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. We cover cybersecurity a lot on this program and how you can best protect yourself in the digital age, even if you're not super tech savvy. One part of the solution is securely shopping online. And so I'm thrilled about my partnership with Visa on Tech It Out, as they've made some significant investments in fraud prevention over the past 5 years, as much as $10 billion. Yes, that's billion with a B, to support Visa's brand promise to protect the financial information of individuals and businesses. Zero liability means peace of mind when you shop online using your Visa card. There can be no half measures when it comes to cybersecurity. Read more about Visa and how securing the world's payments is priority one at visa.com/security. That's visa.com/security. I'll go out on a limb here and suggest most students today, well, at least in high school and university, college age kids, most students are using AI to help with their studies, I'd suspect. But are AI tools like ChatGPT and Google Gemini doing the work for the students? To discuss, we're joined by Tony Anscombe, Chief Security Evangelist with ESET, a leading cybersecurity company and friend to this program. Hey, Tony, good to chat with you again. Thanks for your time.
Hey, hello, Mark. Just to be clear, it is actually me. I haven't been replaced by AI yet.
Yet. Well, it sounds like you. It looks like you, because we're doing this over Zoom. And it's always a pleasure chatting with you. You do such a great job in breaking down geek speak into street speak. Before we talk about AI, please tell us a bit about your work with ESET and what's new with you, Tony.
Oh, well, nothing ever stands still in the world of cybersecurity, as you know, Mark. Things continually change. Well, as you know, my role within ESET is actually going out and talking at a lot of conferences and talking about new threats and what's happening in the threat landscape. And in fact, one of the most interesting ones I've seen recently, Mark, is the use of captures, where cyber criminals are taking a capture and then turning around and saying, there's part 2 of this capture, and asking somebody to press certain keystrokes that infects their machine. So there's never lack of innovation on both sides, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's a cat and mouse thing, isn't it? So a CAPTCHA is when you're asked to prove you're a human, when you're on a website where you're asked to move some designs around or click the boxes that show you bicycles or a crosswalk or something. So the cyber criminals are finding ways to fool you even in this respect.
Well, the issue with something like that is you trust it because it's trying to validate that you are real. So therefore you trust it because you think it's there to do the right thing and so you trust it, and when it asks you to do the next step, of course, you continue the trust. Unless you're a complete cynical person like me and trust nothing and click on nothing.
Well, I suspect that's the way to go, right? Is trust no one. Thanks for that, Tony. So look, AI has so much promise, right? It's already being used by hundreds of millions of people, but there are concerns about misuse, especially by students. What would you say the key issue is here? Is it plagiarism?
Well, I think there's a fear that students will just go home with their homework prep and sit there and say, hey, Mr. AI, could you write me an essay for 2,000 words on this topic, please? Oh, great. Thank you for my 2,000 words. I can now go and hang out with my mates, and 2 minutes later they've done all their homework. And while I think that is a concern, I think there's other elements around that concern we should have. And there are tools appearing on the market now that allow teachers to understand whether something was AI created, or at least try and identify it. But of course, that's a cat and mouse game too, isn't it? Somebody builds the tool to identify AI improves, and then you've got to improve the tool to identify AI.
You can even ask the AI to dumb it down or make 3% mistakes or something like that. I mean, it's that good where you can say, not only write me a 2,000 word essay on the history of, I don't know, whatever, France, but you could say, write it like I'm in the 12th grade instead of university level, to fool the professors. But yeah, there used to be software called Turnitin where professors and teachers can compare swaths of text with anything that any other student have submitted or a website. But this is a bit different with AI because it's called genAI for a reason. It's generating new content, but there are still ways to kind of see if the student is cheating.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And now, of course, if you've got the ingenious student that turns around and takes their own model and feeds in everything they've submitted in the last 5 years, the AI will come back and write it in their language, potentially. So I'm just saying, but if the student's clever enough to do that, by the way, I don't think we need to be concerned about them plagiarizing.
And there's other concerns, right? Aside from not using our brains, which, atrophy, but like accuracy, bias, there are other issues with using AI.
There are, but I think, and I maybe have a slightly different view on some people on this, is I think we should actually be teaching people to use AI. We shouldn't be asking them to avoid it, because if somebody came to you or I, Mark, and turned and said, hey, could you talk to us for 15 minutes on this topic? Now, maybe you know something about the topic, but you don't know enough, so you go off and do your research. You or I would probably use AI, or anybody in the workplace would probably use AI to help them gather information on that topic and put together what they're going to talk about. So my point here is, in the workplace, AI is becoming a tool of the worker. To me, we need to be teaching students how to responsibly use AI as a workplace tool, not instead of doing everything, don't please create all of my homework, but can you give me some assistance? I've been given this assignment. What are the key points that I should be thinking about for the essay?
I like that, and that's optimistic, but many of us will take the path of least resistance. I'll have to get Tony's response to that when we return. Tony Anscombe from ESET is our guest. Stick with us. More Tech It Out coming right up after this short break.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. We're chatting with Tony Anscombe from ESET about using AI in the classroom. Tony suggested before the break that kids should be encouraged to use it as a tool. And I politely pushed back and said, well, wait a sec. They're probably just going to have it do the whole thing. I heard that professors are now trying to find different ways to test the students to prove that they've learned what they've been teaching, like an oral essay or other ways instead of a paper essay.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to, and it depends what you're writing and who you're writing it for, doesn't it? But if you're writing an academic paper, typically you'd have to reference everything you put in it anyway. although AI can do that for you, the sources of the reference are likely to be different. Maybe somebody could actually turn and say you can only reference certain materials or such like. So I think there are ways of telling. And of course, if you've suddenly got a student that yesterday was a C-level student and suddenly they're A, and everything they turn in is A, I don't think I need something to tell me they're plagiarizing.
But just to play devil's advocate, Tony, can a student say only include sources from the UK or from, whatever, New York State or whatever, just to localize the sources if that is a prerequisite?
I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could go back and then turn around and say, can you remove everything that wasn't from this source, or can you rewrite this from these sources? I'm sure you could. But I mean, the other side of this is not only students, is it, that are benefiting from AI? I mean, if you step into a classroom, a lecture hall, different students may require different lesson plans, or may be asked to have different assignments based on their understanding of a topic or their level, and the teachers may well be using AI tooling to create individualized lesson plans for different students. So now we see a benefit of, instead of one lesson plan that fits all students, you may see different lesson plans for different students at different levels. But does the teacher come to the class and turn and say, hey students, I've used AI to do this, and this is how I've used AI to create this lesson for you, and different people are going to get slightly different assignments because I want to make sure it's all individualized. I can't imagine a teacher or a lecturer actually admitting that they used AI to do that, but would probably take the credit in the same way the student would take the credit for writing something they asked AI to write.
So what's the answer then, Tony? We are chatting with Tony Anscombe, Chief Security Evangelist with ESET, a renowned cybersecurity software company. And Tony does a lot of outreach and educational work. How can schools set these ethical standards for AI use in learning?
Well, I think, Mark, we've talked about things like mobile phone usage before, about kids and parents. I think to a certain degree, some of the ethics around this is not dissimilar. If you want your students to behave in a certain way, then actually you have to lead by example. So I think showing responsible usage as a lecturer or teacher, however we want to term them, and showing how you're using AI responsibly and ethically, I think will help the student understand how actually AI is a tool in their toolbox for learning, as opposed to it being, I can do this without actually learning anything, which would be really scary at medical school, wouldn't it? Yeah. But you get my point. There are. I think the boundaries should be set in both directions.
Yeah, lead by example. And again, I do think that there are some skills that students are using when they're using AI. Again, whether it's to tweak the language to sound like their own. I mean, that in and of itself, I'm not encouraging plagiarism. I think that there is a way to finesse the words into your own voice and use it as a tool, just like our generation, Tony, we used the calculator as a tool, but we had to show our work, that there is a way to work that text so it is more from your voice, a happy medium.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need to encourage that critical thinking and that creative thinking. So, it's not only an essay or a piece of work about a topic, my opinion needs to come out in it. AI is going to struggle to have my opinion.
Unless you ask it to take a stance one way or another, right? Even mildly. You could say, write a somewhat positive take on the environmental efforts by research scientists, like that kind of thing. It is crazily customizable, but I hear where you're going. And then, Tony, it would be remiss to have you on the program and not ask about cybersecurity threats tied to AI. Is there anything that we need to know?
Well, certainly an interesting piece of research we published is about something we've called prompt lock. Now, we've seen cyber criminals using AI as a tool in their toolbox, i.e. so you get a great phishing email landing your inbox today and it's grammatically perfect. It's tough to actually see any more about bad language, bad grammar, etc., or badly placed logo, or whatever it might be. You've really got to look hard to see that something is a phishing email. So we know they're using AI tools to improve elements of the attack process, but what we hadn't seen is actually AI being used within the attack. And we recently saw a piece of malware, and we found it actually on a public source, which I believe may have been a proof of concept. And what it does is, based on the environment it finds itself in, it may dynamically create different scripts, i.e. different code to attack what it's trying to attack. So it does it on the fly. So AI is being used to build code on the fly to attack something. And that's the first time we believe anywhere in the world that anybody's actually seen AI being used in that way. I mean, you could argue that's kind of exciting in the cybersecurity industry because we've seen that evolution now. It's also kind of concerning that if we start seeing that actually in the wild attacking people, that could be pretty bad.
Anything we can do to safeguard ourselves from that?
Yeah, the most important thing is to have, if you look at cybersecurity, there's cybersecurity that's using AI and advanced technologies that will detect something like that. And then there are older style technologies. So if you're still sitting there with what I define only antivirus as a business, then you're probably, you need to be thinking about taking advanced endpoint detection response systems that look at your entire environment, the connections from it, the log files on your machine, the processes running, etc., etc. It's no longer about looking just for a piece of malware.
And does ESET do that, your endpoint security?
Yeah, we have endpoint detection and response. And we also do it if you're a smaller business. I'd actually use a managed service. And that tends to be termed MDR, managed detection and response. And I'd outsource it to and let a security analyst expert.
Thank you, Tony. It's at ESET.com. And your work, a lot of the blog posts, your research, it's at WeLiveSecurity.com.
It is, and you'll find a whole host of technical research papers there, but also help for consumers as well.
Tony, always great to chat with you. Thanks again.
All right, thank you, Mark.
We talk about first responders and Verizon Frontline when we return on Tech It Out.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out. It's not your imagination. Natural disasters are becoming more frequent and more intense. And while there are scientists studying this disturbing trend and discussing what, if anything, can be done about it, necessities like communication also needs to be as unaffected as possible, especially as it's critical for emergency responders to be able to do their jobs, especially during these times. To learn about Verizon Frontline and their role in all of this, we're joined on the line by Cory Davis, Vice President of Verizon Frontline. Welcome to the program, Cory. Good to chat with you.
Hey, Mark, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. So why don't we just start at a high level? What is Verizon Frontline?
Yeah, for over 30 years, Verizon has been committed to delivering reliable, secure, and resilient mission-critical communication solutions to the public safety community. So we support our nation's first responders with a purpose-built, award-winning network where communications are always prioritized. We have a dedicated crisis response team. We got best-in-class 24/7 support. And then we also have a very robust partner program and a Verizon Frontline innovation program. And truly, our tagline here at Verizon Frontline is your mission is our purpose. And we have a lot of folks on our team that are made up of former first responders. So I have folks from law enforcement, fire, EMS, 911 call centers, dispatchers. And then I have almost every branch of the military also covered across my team.
Awesome. So I kind of framed this off the top like it's something for consumers, so we can still communicate during natural disasters or other emergency situations. So is it fair then that Verizon Frontline is also or primarily for emergency responders rather than regular Verizon customers?
That is correct. So Verizon Frontline is exclusively for the public safety community.
Got it.
Now, we do offer priority services and a discount if they are a consumer and have a personal line, but the main services are all around agency paid. So the public safety, the true state, local, and federal responders.
Thanks for that. Appreciate the clarification. Why, Cory, do you think this is important for a carrier to have a division like Frontline and implement something as ambitious as this?
Yeah, I think, as we live in this ever-changing world of unpredictability, and as we've become more reliant on not only our cell phones, but wireless communications, having that robust infrastructure, having always on priority preemption, quality of service, essentially giving first responders first in line to our network resources. I've been deployed to many hurricanes, wildfires, multiple crisis situations, and I can tell you in these situations, literally every second counts. So being able to communicate back literally can mean saving lives. Mm-hmm. Or, if you look at it from another perspective, even just being able to make a phone call to a loved one to say, hey, I'm okay. It's very, very critical, not only for first responders, but for society and the communities as a whole.
And what's going on there in Philly today? Is it a media event where you're showing journalists behind the scenes of Verizon Frontline?
Yeah, actually, it's more than that. So this is so we do what are called the Verizon Frontline Road Shows. We do these across the country. And what it is, it's an opportunity for public safety agencies, state, local, and federal in the area to come out and see live demonstrations of our capabilities, of our technology, and some of the mobile assets that we've built over the years through our Verizon Frontline Innovation Program. And what's very unique too is all of these assets and all of these solutions that are on display, these aren't prototypes. Like these are actual assets and solutions and technology that we are putting out in the field, and our team is responding with daily.
Let's say local law enforcement or emergency response personnel, they're with another carrier, just they have a contract with another carrier by chance. Could they also adopt Verizon Frontline if their phones are tied to another carrier, or is it separate from the kinds of lines that we would buy as consumers?
No, absolutely. So we are carrier agnostic. Our support is across the nation for all public safety agencies, whether you are a Verizon customer or not a Verizon customer, because we know in time of crisis that, kind of going back to our previous question there, communications is so critical. And if there is another cell phone carrier that is down, and we are able to help them with their communications for 24 hours, for a week, for a month, we're able to provide those services through our program.
Yeah.
And I want to make it very clear too, those services are also free of charge. And I'm referring to our Verizon Frontline Crisis Response Team.
All right. Thanks for that. I understand there's a demo that showcases some of your technologies there today, and that includes an acronym that I like called THOR. I've heard this before while interviewing one of your colleagues about a year ago. That stands for Tactical Humanitarian Operations Response. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so think of Thor as really our Swiss Army knife of Verizon Frontline innovation. It really has everything in our toolbox from 4G to 5G, our millimeter wave spectrum. We can do microwave. We can do private networks. And it's also a mobile command vehicle that can seat upwards of 6 people. So not only can we deploy our latest and greatest technology to support any mission, but it also can function as a mobile command unit. So then these public safety agencies can run their full command out of Thor, while Thor is also broadcasting a very robust and strong 5G ultra wideband signal.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks like a long truck that has all kinds of satellites and antenna coming out of it in the signature Verizon red. It's very cool looking. And that's something that would be deployed during a natural disaster.
What we're trying to do here, Mark, is, Thor is, like I said, the Swiss Army knife. It's a really big truck. It can go into austere environments.
It looks like a giant Swiss Army knife because it's red and it's got all the silver things coming out of it, like the antenna I was talking about. Yeah. It's funny, actually.
And it has been deployed. We've deployed it at many missions. We actually had it right on the beach at Fort Myers Beach during Hurricane Ian.
Yeah, that's a great example. More with Verizon Frontline and Cory when we return on Tech It Out. Stay with us.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want.
We are chatting with Cory Davis, VP of Verizon Frontline. He's in Philadelphia at an event where they're showcasing their technologies that are deployed during an emergency situation like a natural disaster. Before the break, Cory, you were starting to tell us about Thor. tactical humanitarian operations response platform, a giant truck, if you will. Super cool. We had to take a short break, but please continue your thought.
Absolutely, yeah. Because as you said, it's a big truck. It sits on a 650 chassis. So what we're really doing and how we're ideating through the Verizon Frontline Innovation Program is working with a robust partner ecosystem to shrink that footprint, make those assets smaller, but still be able to deliver the same punch and the same experience as Thor, but in a smaller package.
Before I let you go, I understand Verizon Frontline recently commissioned a survey and found some findings tied to public safety technology. And speaking of tech, it would be remiss to have you on a show like this and not ask you about some technologies like robotic dogs that are used or drones in these kinds of situations. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And we did put out this survey. This is a communication survey that we've been doing with the public safety community now for 5 years. We survey just a little over 1,000 responders that are in the law enforcement, the fire field, and also the EMS space. Really, this robotics, AI, drones, we are starting to see a massive uptick of not only interest, but adoption throughout the country. I've met with multiple customers over the last few months, and especially on the law enforcement side, they are standing up what's called drone as the first responder programs, where they're sending out these drones for situational awareness to gain intel around, specific situations, crimes, et cetera. And then for the robot dogs, we have one that's called Red. That is our robot emergency dog. And we've really seen that come to fruition and really the benefits. Think like building collapses or train derailments where there's hazmat material, because we're able to put not only cameras, we have cameras on the dog, but we're also to put hazmat sniffers that can sniff out all the bad chemicals that are in the air. So these robotics and these tools are really not only helping give public safety better situational awareness, it's helping keeping them safer as well. Because prior, you had to send a human being into these really, really bad, dangerous situations. Now you can send a robot into these situations, gather that intel, and make very, very smart and safe decisions on how you want to execute the mission.
That's great. And, I've been talking mostly about natural disasters, but you just gave an example of an unnatural one, like a chemical spill. And I'm assuming there are other emergency situations as well, like mass shootings or other things that can happen where communication is critical for first responders and other personnel. So that's great. And then just quickly, I know there's a phrase called network slicing that I think our listeners would be interested about. And then I would love to ask you where we can learn more if there's some literature on all this.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. That's a great segue. All of these man-made event or a natural event or even a planned event, because what happens is you get a large influx of call volume or a lot of people trying to use their devices on our network, which, in the past could cause some issues with congestion, right? But luckily we have priority and preemption on our network. But what we've enabled now is we're actually dedicating and partitioning a slice of our network specifically for public safety and first responders, giving them dedicated capacity. So no matter if the cell tower is at 100% load, there is still a percentage that is reserved at all times for public safety. And then what we've also done is we've also created an ultra reliable, tailored experience around application persistency. So think reducing jitter. You have to be thinking like video, thinking frame to frame rates. We're able to significantly improve the performance KPIs and essentially provide an experience that is above and beyond what can be provided on our normal network, because this is a dedicated bandwidth, dedicated slice just for first responders.
Great. And then is there a website for Frontline specifically?
Absolutely. Yes. You can just go to verizon.com/frontline, and then you'll find out everything you need to know about our Verizon Frontline Crisis Response Team, our Verizon Frontline Innovation Team, for network slicing, and pretty much everything that we talked about today.
All right. Cory, thank you so much for carving out some time to chat about this really important side of your business. This is great. Thanks again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Stay safe, Mark.
And thank you for tuning into Tech It Out. Hope you enjoyed this weekend's show. Also wanted to thank Visa for your support on Tech It Out and Sandisk. Speaking of Visa and securing your payments, you also want to secure your data, your files. I always trust Sandisk's external storage like solid state drives, USB thumb drives, micro SD cards for fast, reliable, durable, and high capacity storage solutions that are not just great for backing up for long-term storage, but also for transferring files between devices. Sandisk.com has more. Have a fantastic rest of your day, everyone, and I look forward to catching up with you next week for another brand new episode of Tech It Out. Bye-bye for now. Ciao.